So hello everybody. I can't believe so many people came out to this. This is amazing. It's really amazing. I want to thank everybody and so many wonderful, beautiful comments when I meet people one-on-one. I really appreciate it, and it's just nice to see how big this community is here. Nick, what do you think? We're going to do one next year?
I don't know. What do you reckon?
This is a great turnout. So guys, thank you very much. I'm scheduled to do a demo, but I'm afraid that if I do a demo, I mean, I could cut something on the bandsaw. We don't have a camera so people can intimately see, do we? Oh, you do? Okay. So you guys can see that camera. Oh, there's me. Hold on a minute. I should record that. Can that? This is how I do my YouTube movies. That tell? It doesn't tell. Never mind. Da, 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 da. Jocko, everybody know Jocko? Jocko's my main man on stage since we don't have Izzy. So I guess doing a live demo like this is a little difficult because we only have a limited amount of time, so I can't really whip up, something that I really would like to. So I think I'm going to do a bandsaw demo. How many people here like to use a bandsaw by show of hands? Quite a few. How many people want to use a bandsaw and never used one ever? All right, just about the same amount of people. So I'm going to demystify some bandsaw techniques, hopefully. Are we ready to go here?
So this one up, this one away.
Oh, it's got wheels on it.
Yeah.
There's my camera. Yeah, turn it around like that. Let's watch the plug on the ground there.
Just like this, or
Oh, keep going.
like this?
See, that's good. Just like that's good. How we doing? You're okay? You're going to eat some sawdust. You all right with that? Cool. Oh, is that me? Oh, thanks, bud. Hey, hand it to me. I would love to do a big Q&A. Anybody have a question in the front row so I could talk while we get started? Who's got a question? Anybody right here? Anybody? No?
What do you do to your thumb?
I got spray paint on my thumb.
Okay.
Every time I do the stencil, I got spray paint on my thumb. But it's not bad. I'm usually hurting myself, but this week I'm okay. Hold on a minute. If I go like that, I can see everybody. So I haven't tested the equipment yet. But one thing, this is just a 2x4. I'll show you a simple technique. Now I'm going to freestyle. What word should I make? Maker. How about that? Maker. Maker has M-A-K-E-R, 5 letters. I'll go like this. M-A-K. So I have M-A-K-E-R. Now I'm going to freestyle this, but I need my glasses. Oh, they are. Is that my microphone hissing like that? It's important, if you guys want to learn how to do letters, it's really important to study letter forms and really understand. If you really were like cornered and you had to do a bubble letter, you'd kind of be confronted with like, wow, what exactly does the serif look like? What exactly is the girth of this upright or this cross? So it's important. I obviously have lots of experience, but it's important to get familiar with a typeface that you might like. I had a strict rule with my students. I don't teach anymore, but when I did, I said they were never allowed to make up a font. Until you really get confident and understand lots of different font faces, you're not allowed to really make up a font. I didn't let them. But in this case, I'm just improvising, so I'm okay. I'm allowed to make up a font. At M. A. Now I'm working with a really fat blade. So one thing you can do when you have a fat blade on a saw, you could still make letters. We'll see. I'm going to keep it all block letters. If we had to do an S, it would be a little difficult. But you could use the saw blade itself. I don't know how close the camera can see what I'm doing. But you can use the saw blade teeth itself. Oh, that's the camera? That's working, right? Can you guys see this okay? So this technique of just kind of side swiping like that really helps. So see, I'm just using that as my and I should have a pencil to sweep away the butts. That's a real dangerous thing. You got to be careful of that. We have a pencil. Compliments of Triton Tools. M-A-K. I'll come back. I'm still thinking about what I'm going to do in the middle of that A. I'm not sure. I might go kind of 70s avant-garde and leave it out so it looks like a pushpin typeface. If you have a pencil with an eraser, that helps because you can kind of help manipulate stuff around. Now, this is an instance where, see, I run into a problem here, so I'm going to shut the blade off because I could pull it off if I'm not careful. You could always just shut the saw off. It's obviously a very simple precaution. I couldn't have done that quite easily without presenting to pulling the blade off. So, and you see, I got to work all that out. I'm just freestyling here, so I kind of imagine what it needs to look like. But now that I have more room in there, I can get back in there. Pull out, I got to turn the blade around from this way. I got some debris under there, I got to make sure I get that out. The most time I've gotten injured right on here on this thumb, I don't know if you can see, my hands look horrible, but right there's a scar that kind of shows up. You see that? That's the same cut like 6 times over the last 20 years. I've done this going to sweep the blade off, sweep the thing up, and I stick my thumb in the blade. So don't do that. Don't forget, you can just use the tip on the blade to just get rid of the material. That's really what you want to do, is just get rid of the material. Now that I have enough room, I don't have to remove it to... We'll keep that like that for now. I'm going to come up and start working on the E. Again, I'm just freestyling, so. And because I don't want to have to keep removing it, I'm getting rid of the debris. I'm making sure that debris is small enough to fall down between the plate. Now I have enough room to go in there. Sometimes it's nice when the debris falls completely through, but again, I could sit there and try and wrestle it. I'll either cut my finger or pull the blade off, so I'm just going to turn the saw completely off. Get rid of that piece of debris. Turn the saw back on. I'm using the end of those teeth to get to the bottom of that thing right there. This is like a resaw blade. Just getting rid of that material here. Give myself room. Now, if I had a point on my pencil, I probably would have drawn what I wanted to do, but I'm just... When you practice enough, you start to be able to see what you want to do without having to draw the line. Try and turn the blade around. Yep, that worked. Now I could sit there and refine that E. The E's a little out of scale for the rest of it, but that's all right. Just gonna leave it as is. Make my R. I'm gonna keep the R a little funky. My R is really bad. I can tell I'm already out of scale. So when you have a big, thick resaw blade like this, you kind of think of it like as a chainsaw blade, and you're kind of chainsaw carving. I think I'm just going to leave the A and the R open, but I'll show you a technique now. We could set up our fence, see if our fence works. We'll resaw it. There you go. I'm going to make one for everybody in the audience. It's going to be paper thin. Hold on a second. Pointed at me. Jocko, are you vlogging? Yeah. Come up here, come on. Come up here with the vlogger. This is the good part. First part was boring. See? See? This looks like 70s to me because it's like Milton Glaser with no things in there. Does anybody know who Milton Glaser is? No graphic designers in the audience? Yeah, turn that back. I'm going to make it a little thinner. Maybe we'll get a couple more. Milton Glaser is a graphic designer from a company called Pushpin Studios. And he made a typeface called Baby Teeth, and none of the insides of the letters are filled in. They're all just... Yeah. That's cool. You could do, where's my spray paint? CCC. There it is. Yeah, that one's yours. This is like, if anybody uses Illustrator, this is like Illustrator, but like in real life. Watch. This, the hot glue's not on. You see? You know how in Illustrator you could copy, paste, Option, click, Command, and make it black? See? Drop shadow. Or if you want to make the white, the black shadow, right there. So there's a lot of fun techniques when you start making lettering. And you notice how in this particular piece I left all the letters together. And that was primarily just to make this demo a little bit simpler. But also, you could just, I'm giving this to my friend Chris Duffy. My friend Chris. You can have it. Thank you. Sorry to all the people in the front get all the good stuff. I'll make a couple more. Anytime I'm pushing something through the bandsaw blade and I'm rushing it, I'm thinking of the, anybody see the Matthias Wandel video where he discusses how the saw blade pulls the saw dust through the saw blade, and he had like a big, it's a good video to watch. Matthias describes how the saw blade actually does what it does when it's pulling the wood through the cut. Now, if you're a dad and you got to make quick party favors, I still got like 3 more in here. I've already given out 5 of these, so. I'll make a couple more of these and then we'll call it. When you cut on the bandsaw, it's nice to have long fingernails because you can see right there. What? By the end of me cutting a lot of letters, all my fingernails are nipped. Now it's getting a little fragile because it's super skinny, so I'm going to push a little bit slower to prevent breaking it. I'm trying to keep it from vibrating too. It wants to vibrate a lot, see there? Push stick. That's about as thin as we're going to get. Oh. We got glue here, right? So a couple of them broke. I know. Oh, this young lady, I'm sorry. There's the bits and pieces. There's one here on the ground. Here. There you go. You guys can fight over it. How much time do we got? 25 minutes? Shit, I thought I was going to eat up the 45 minutes doing that. Does anybody have any questions about bandsawing that maybe I could answer after this demo? Anybody in the front? Any thoughts? Is everybody just shy? Is this okay? Yeah, we have a question over here. Yeah.
If you was having to use a wider blade,
Yeah.
does that mean that you have to go faster, or you would be able to go slower through the wood?
Well, it's funny. I don't honestly know a lot of the. He said if I was using a wider blade, can I go faster or slower? I go as fast as it feels comfortable. I mean, it depends. If you're a sawmill and you need to produce a certain amount a day, by the time you're a sawmill, you'll know all those details intimately. But when we're just starting out here, I go as slow as feels comfortable. I don't want to overburden the blade. If it starts to slow down, certainly you know you're going too fast. And if you're going too slow, you're overheating the blade. So there's like a comfortable medium. And if you have, this looks like it might be an 8 tooth per inch or a 7 tooth per inch. If you're going with a much thicker blade, typically for more resaw, you have like a 4 tooth per inch. And that cuts really good. So you'll be able to remove a lot of material somewhat quickly. So it all depends. You know, like I said, too slow, you could overheat it. Sometimes, I use a lot of times in my videos, I'll use a bandsaw blade that has 14 teeth per inch. And that's a really fine cut for like aluminum or brass or even wood. And sometimes I resaw with that. It's not a great idea because it does overheat. It's not removing enough material fast enough. But, oh, I like the back of that young man's shirt. Look at that, it says my name. Thank you. Any questions on bandsawing? Yes, sir?
Not bandsawing.
But what do you got?
I'll feed you a question. What do you think makes a good maker?
What makes a good maker? I think what makes a good maker? That's a pretty good question. I think if somebody does something and they feel empowered, I think that's a maker. That's as simple as that. You know, I meet so many people. I meet people that do as much as me, more than me. I mean, you know, Alex Steele is here. Is he making a video right now? Where is he? You know, someone like Alex Steele is like works all the time, and then I meet somebody that's just made something for the first time in their life, you know, and then they're empowered. They all of a sudden have a new point of view. I think a maker is anybody that wants to just do whatever makes them happy in the arts, really, honestly. Any other questions? Anybody? Thoughts? Yes, sir? Do I still have a cat? I have 2 cats. Spike is in my latest video, which uploaded this morning. It took like 18 hours to upload. And Spike's at the very end, where he jumps from one counter to the other, and I just happen to have it in my camera, and I quickly switched it to slow. I could see, I'm like, he's gonna jump. I'm fumbling with my camera to get it on slow-mo. And he jumps in slow motion. And I edited the video with the sounds for Chariots of Fire underneath it. And I said, I don't want to get a community strike, so I just put it in silence. So when you watch the end of my video that I posted today, imagine the Chariots of Fire playing underneath Spike about to jump from one counter to the other in slow-mo. And it's funny, he's got no cartilage or something because he jumps, it sounds like a bag of sand jumping from one counter to the other. He's got no delicacy. When you pick him up and put him down, it's like dropping a bag of metal on the ground. He's really old, Spike. He seems to be happy though. And then my other cats are much younger. Any other questions? Yes, sir? What's my favorite material to work with? Lately, it's metal. Because when you're done, you're done. You don't have to paint, you don't have to sand, you don't have to wait for the weather to cooperate with the paint. Well, that's not true. I had to paint all those red things a couple months ago in the fall. That was a pain in the ass. But no, I'm really getting into metal work. Obviously, blacksmithing is a new frontier for me, and it's really exciting. I actually thought to myself the other day, I got to make something out of wood for Aqua soon. They're never going to call me back. They're going to stop sending me pallets of gadgets if I don't make something soon.
Get your trailer back.
My trailer is still missing. So if anybody here knows anything in this country, please let me know. No, my trailer is missing. And I'm trying to, I know the minute I lay out another 7 to 10 grand for a new trailer, it's going to pop up. I'm going to be behind it at a red light. It's going to be like Pulp Fiction. I'm going to be at the red light. I'm going to, yeah, go ahead. We'll get to you guys in the back. Yeah?
What's happening with your Maker Church, the one that Greg RR building?
Oh yeah, Maker Church, the Maker Church, dubbed so by Kyle from RR Buildings. Kyle kept telling me, because Taylor kept saying, we were looking at all these Scandinavian style buildings and barns and everyone's got a really steep pitch. And Kyle kept saying, it's gonna look like a church, dude. It's gonna look like a church. I'm like, well, it's not the worst thing. I don't mind if it looks like a church. He's like, no, I mean, it's gonna be really tall, man. And so when we made it, he just started calling it the Maker Church. But I had windows put in it while I was traveling here. So the windows are in it, and I haven't even seen it yet. The last time I was in it, all the windows were covered with the wood still. I went home to New York to get on a cab to come to the airport, and I was in the cab, and David sent me pictures of the building opened up. He opened all the window holes. And then the next day, which was yesterday, I think, my time's all messed up, he put all the windows in. So it's moving along. My buddy Patrick is now my new general manager for the electrical work, and we just partnered up with a company that's going to provide a lot of the electrical wiring. I got quotes on the siding. So through the winter, I was basically storing my nuts, if you know what I'm saying. And now that the spring is here, I'm going to spend some of my nuts and get the building moving along. So it was good. The winter was brutal in New York this year. It just seems to have never ended, and it was just brutally cold. So, and it's another thing we couldn't really do much. But it's moving, and I can't wait to get it going. And in all likelihood, I'm going to keep the other big giant shop just as a dumping ground for my machine collection that's growing. And I'll be able to curate and keep cool things in my backyard. So it's cool. We had a question back there. Anything good back there? Blue shirt. What do you say? Oh, what makes a good bandsaw? Sturdiness. Something that's sturdy. Like, the Craftsman made a couple of bandsaws in the 70s, and when they're on, they go horrible. You want a bandsaw that's balanced, that's sturdy, that's heavy. I constantly recommend in America, I don't know if you guys have them here, Rockwell 14-inch Rockwell Delta from like the 1930s, 40s up until like the 80s, 90s. They're made almost the same the entire way. The older seems to be heavier gauge metal, of course, but a Delta Rockwell where you can adjust the knobs. This is, I never saw this one, but this has hand adjustment knobs. And the Delta Rockwells have the hand adjustment knobs. You can adjust the bottom guides right here, the top guides right here. You don't need an Allen key. That drives me nuts. All the new equipment has Allen key adjustability. You're fumbling with the Allen key. It's always at the wrong angle. You can't get the turn you need. And sometimes you got to tighten the Allen key with the short end, and 10 minutes later it's loose again. So I really poo-poo anybody that has Allen key adjustable knobs. That really drives me nuts. Because with a little bit of extra time in manufacturing, you can have a good quality product that's easily adjusted, easily used. Because we're going to jump in it, like if you only have one bandsaw and you want to jump between a 1/2-inch thick blade and an 1/8-inch thick blade, you got to break out the Allen keys. But on the Delta Rockwell, you can go in and out. So sturdiness and easily adjustability. Excuse me. Any other questions? Who's got? Oh yes, what do we got? Do I like using my laser cutter? I love using my laser cutter. I say if you guys have watched my Genesis since I started, I was a total analog guy. I mean, it's partly why I did well with Make Magazine, because you had all the 3D printing and electronics, and I was like the go-to guy for just like good old-fashioned hand-making stuff, because that's how I grew up. And to be perfectly honest, I was intimidated to learn new technologies. And so I said, if I'm going to be here in this space where people are watching me, I at least want to provide new, good content. I myself was getting a little bored and a little envious watching myself do the same thing each time, but watching these other people make cool things on lasers and plasma cutters and CNCs. So since 2013, I've opened my entire universe up to learn CNC technology, which I really was opposed to only because I was scared. To be 100% honest. I was opposed to it, and I would poo-poo it only because I'd be like, I gotta learn a new technology. I'm already comfortable with what I know. But, you know, so I was kind of constricting my own growth. So there, if I can serve as an example to any of the guys my age, I think you're gonna just do fine, because it's just handed to you, you're gonna do fine. But when you're like over 40 and you don't wanna learn anything new, it scares you, and you're like, I don't do email, it's not my thing. Get over it and learn how to do it. It'll open up a whole new world for you. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Jocko. My God, get hands dirty. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you in person. Any other questions? Yes, well, I see that first. The difference between creativity and craftsmanship. The difference between creativity and craftsmanship. Creativity. I think craftsmanship, craftsmanship kind of, in my opinion, reminds me of somebody that's like a learned tradition. And being here in Europe, there's so many traditions that are handed down. And they're done exactly the way that they're supposed to be done, the way they've been defined by the guild has to be done exactly this way. And I think creativity is kind of going outside the lines a little bit, taking that and going outside the lines. I mean, that's just my opinion. Obviously, that could be debated forever. But the idea of craftsmanship combined with creativity, I think is a fun YouTube channel, I think. So, yes? Yes, sir. 500 quid to start a workshop. That's in American money. That's probably 50 cents. I don't know, how much is that? About $700, $800. I think get a bandsaw, because with a bandsaw with a fence, you can cut straight lines and you can cut curved lines. And a bandsaw and a table saw, I think, are the two most critical things. Because with a table saw, you can do cross-cutting, make yourself a quick down and dirty sled, and you can get some really beautiful miters and some good cross-cuts, provided you got room. My old shop was 15 feet wide, and 40% of that was taken up by benches on either side, so I'd have to literally like kind of half chop to go for the cross-cut sled. So if you do have a table saw, you want 8 feet wide and at least 8 feet in and out on your in-feed, out-feed. In America, all the wood is processed at 8 feet. I don't know if it's the same thing here. What's that, 2 point something meters or 1 point something? 2.4? Yep, see. So, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, you talked before about cars, motorcycles.
Yeah?
You're going to do more of that now you get into space.
Yeah, a lot of people, you guys remember I took in that old car and I was going to fix up that old pickup truck. I made a couple of videos of me working on that pickup truck, but I looked at the edits and I'm like, okay, I'm just putting nuts and bolts together. Even when I sped it up, it didn't look cool. Because you looked at the hub of a wheel that looked exactly the same as it did when the video started. So I'm always looking for that transformation, that like arc. So for me to like restore cars, I'd like to do something that like really has a big transformation. So I have in mind to take a four-door Cadillac and make it a pickup truck, something I've always wanted to do since I was a kid. So now that I have room, that'll be probably the first car project I do, is to find an old Cadillac. In my neighborhood, there's an old Rolls Royce sitting, rotting away in a driveway. So I have this envision of buying this Rolls Royce and cutting it all up, and that would be fun. Sorry, Britain, I'm sorry. But it's probably made from here and sitting in upstate New York, rotting away in someone's driveway. I was gonna go make a deal with the guy. Any other questions? Oh, we got one here. How long does it take to edit my videos? Sometimes it's really quick. Sometimes the vlogs take a long time. Because the vlogs, it's like every minute it's a decision. What happens here? What should I do here? Does this juxtaposition work? If I edit it or stretch this out, it'll be to the beat of the song that's under it. So that takes a long time. That could take hours, like 8 hours. Sometimes I edit a vlog, I start in the beginning of the week, and I stretch it out. I've taken a little bit of pressure off myself by not posting every single Sunday or Monday. I post now when it's kind of ripe and it feels right, which is about every 10 days. But when I do a build video, I shoot it really tight. If you guys are out there, if you're gonna start making YouTube videos, most important thing is to shoot tight. The death of a YouTube beginner is to start with a GoPro camera just running in the corner of the room. You have that surveillance video of you, and it looks the same. You could speed the whole thing up. It looks exactly the same as before you started making it to when you're done making. You really want some nice intimate stuff. You want to go in close, come out, in close, come out. So the surveillance camera really is not a good approach if you're going to start working with a YouTube camera. Just move right in there and only shoot, like if you're going to shoot, just shoot what you need. Don't shoot extra stuff, because that will slow your edit down. Getting back to the original question. I shoot really tight, and Brett's with me. Is Brett in the audience? Brett? Brett's my cameraman lately most of the time, so thank you, Brett. But Brett knows when to start and stop. We shoot tight, and I could bring all that video into the timeline and just speed it up 4 times, and then I go through it, and I start seeing what needs to be stretched out, what needs to be cropped, what needs to be. So sometimes I drag, if it's a good quick build, I drag every piece of footage into the timeline, speed it up 4 times, export it, and then it's like a 20-minute video, and I go through it quick and I see where it needs to get cut, stretched, pulled back together, get it down to like a tight 10 minutes, or shorter or longer, whatever it needs to be. I let the build dictate how long it should be. But if it ends up being like 20 minutes long, I really get in there and I chop it down. That's too long for a build video. So 10 minutes, and so that takes me 2 hours on a quick one, 2 days on a long one. I always have videos going, so like at the end of the day, I'll bring all that footage home and I'll edit it. So edits are always ongoing. Sometimes they're really quick and I can do it in one sesh, but sometimes there's always 5 or 6 edits going, and I'll like add pieces of the brick to it as I go. Yes? What's my favorite tool? Is that what you said? My favorite tool? That's a good question. When it comes to analog, of course, the bandsaw. And when it comes to digital, probably the laser. Because I can do stuff, I can cut plastic, I can cut leather, I can cut paper, I can engrave material. So the laser is really versatile. Do you use a laser? Not yet? What's your favorite tool? What did she say? A what? A hammer. That's great. When you get older, are you going to get a hammer tattooed on your arm? Because that shows that you're a real maker. He's just so cute. Now, I love hammers. They symbolize so much, of course. Blacksmithing, woodworking. So a hammer, like I obviously love hammers. Somebody counted my hammers. I forget how many I have. I don't even know how many I have in that video. And in that video where I showed my hammer collection, I found like 3 other drawers full of hammers. I was like, shit, I forgot to show these. Would have made the video like 2 more minutes longer. Yes, sir.
You have great expertise in toys, making toys.
Yeah.
And you have good experience with that. Why don't we see
toys.
Yeah, why don't
I used to make toys. So from 90 until like 2008, I made toys. I manufactured toys, plastic injection molded. I do a lot of problem solving. I spent a lot of time in South China sitting in factories with factory tool managers and tool rooms. And we'd get an injection molded part and we'd figure out why the flashing is too much, or how can we combine this tooling to have these 5 parts so we could save on a whole nother tool. So I was involved quite a bit, and that's where I really got my engineering, that's where I got my engineering education on the job, working in tool factories, but my machining interests, watching these guys adjust tooling and stuff, that's really seeing these guys in the factories. That's why I started really wanting to machine and get involved with lathe work and that kind of stuff. But the toy business to me got boring. I made a toy years ago, which is kind of defines what I like about the toy business. There's a thing called gurgling guts. It's like a squishy eyeball inside of a skin, and when you squeeze on it, it slurps and spits. And then in that same time frame, so I had the patent on that. It's expired now. It's a long time ago. That's called gurgling guts. So that was my main invention that I did. That was my most prolific invention, my most popular one. I invented a lot of things, but that. And right after that, we came up with a product where it was like a PVC rubber ball, but it had that ballistic gel inside of it. And when you squeeze it, the ballistic gel would gush out. I was the first one to make that toy, but that toy kind of turned into like a generic Hong Kong manufactured thing. So you see those all the time now. I invented that, but nobody believes me. I swear to God. Yes, sir.
You missed out on working with Izzy today. Are you going to try and get together in the future and do it?
Oh, Izzy's the best. Izzy, you know, the one thing about this community that it just can't be overstated is just the friendships and the relationships. It's great. I really love it. And whether you're a maker or whether you're just a spectator or whether you're like Izzy and you have a big channel or me or Bob, I think we're all on the same playing field, and that's what's great. It's like a community where it's completely, everybody could do anything. Like you could start a channel tomorrow and be as popular as any one of us, and that's what I love about it. There's no real hierarchy. Some of you guys who don't have channels think there is, but there really isn't. So don't be shy to come up and speak to any one of us. We love it. It's one of the biggest parts of this community is that we could all share in what we do. And Izzy's the best. He's just such a sweet guy. And he can't stop inventing. He's like insane. Every day I open up his Instagram, there's another thing. Yes, sir. Where do I go for inspiration? I just walk around New York, or I go to flea markets a lot. Like, I'm kind of like, now at this point I'm addicted. It's like every Sunday morning I have to get up and go to the flea market. Now that it's started, the winter's over. In New York, I go to the flea market near my house. Every Sunday morning I get up, I go to the flea market. I walk through it quickly, and in it I'm like, oh, look at that tool I never saw. Look at that potato peeler I never saw. Look at that hatchet I never saw, that rake. And some of the guys here have gone to the flea market with me, and I mean, isn't it insane? Like, I shop with my eyes. I mean, I might spend $500 or I might spend $1, but just walking through that flea market is really one of the most important things for me, I think, right now. And then if you guys have seen my complex where my shop is right now, my dirty warehouse shop, there's 30,000 square feet right next to me that's going to be a flea market in the next couple of weeks. So I'm not going to have to go far. I'm real excited about that. How much time we got? You kicking me? 5 minutes. We got a question over there.
Are you going to do any more collaborations with this old Tony?
Oh, I would love to. This old Tony is another big inspiration. It's funny, when I make things, there's a couple of people in my mind. I feel like I always got to remember, oh shit, this old Tony's going to watch this video. Or I know Marco Terenzi isn't watching me that much. I just assume he's not because he's not a big YouTuber. But if anybody's watches Marco's Instagram, I always think to myself, when I'm having a hard time working, especially with something small, Marco would do this and he would make it perfect. So I kind of have that in the back of my mind. So I have a couple of YouTubers. But this old Tony has been, if you guys don't know this old Tony, you got to watch him. He's incredibly funny and he's amazingly skilled at what he does. He's a machinist and a teacher. I mean, he's equally skilled at being funny, teaching, and machining. And they're top notch on all three of those things. Questions? I'll get you next.
Tell us about Little Hands.
Oh, the Little Hands. The Little Hands is just a joke. I'll tell you the genesis of the Little Hands. So I wanted to make a push stick that was hands because I cut my finger and it's like, hey, don't put your real hands in the saw, put your fake hands in the saw. And so I Googled it. Every time I come up with an idea, I Google it. There's 10 people making CNC-shaped hands for push sticks. So I was like, all right, that idea is kind of oversaturated. How can I bring something new to it? And I really wasn't thinking. I really wasn't thinking. So a couple of weeks later, I was in a little gift shop, and they had this pile of hands. And I'm like, oh, those are cool. And then I'm like, oh, wait, they have left and right hands. That's what sold it. They have like, I only have one with me today, but they have left and right hands. I'm like, that's perfect. So I brought him back to the shop, and I didn't know, I still hadn't connected them to the table saw thing, and they were just sitting around the shop. I just kept them in pairs, like little rubber gloves, just sitting around the shop. And I still hadn't really broken ground doing anything with them yet. And then, I don't know, if Brett's here, he could remind me, but I ended up sticking them on these sticks one day, just thinking about like making them into push sticks, and the joke hadn't really formulated until I actually shot me pushing it through, and Brett was cracking up behind the camera, so I knew we had something. And then I just, I said, it would be funny if I'm touching it and then another little hand comes in and caresses the thing. It just, every time I do it, if Brett laughs, I leave it in. So that's it. Good. You had a question. What would he say? I can't hear a damn thing. I heard the temperature of something. What'd you say?
What depth of cut would you recommend for your first bandsaw?
Depth of cut? You mean the depth of the blade or the height of the wood?
Imagine
Well, the deeper you go, the less control you have. So I say if you're really just starting out, just start with 3/4 inch plywood. You know, if it's your first time, 3/4 inch plywood's pretty good. But don't go too thick too much. Build up. Get to learn how the blade works and how it reacts to what you're doing. You got a question?
It's just if somebody's starting off doing this sort of thing, what's the best thing for them to start off and to not put them off and think, I can't do this?
Well, it's funny. You know, I always tell my students, people watch me, they watch Izzy, they watch every one of us on YouTube, and they're like, oh God, you make it so easy, I can't do that. Obviously, I turned the camera on me when I was 45 years old. I had all those previous 45 years of me playing around. So don't watch do we watch a violinist or a concert pianist and go, I could do that? Or you sit at the piano and go, blink, 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 oh, I don't know what I'm doing. You automatically know that it takes years to get to that point. But somehow with the maker community, there are things you can jump right into, like laser cutting or CNCing. There are other things like carving or bandsaw work or woodwork that take a little bit more learning. And so sometimes people forget that and they jump right in and they get discouraged because they can't get there as fast. So repetition. And then I see people, like I met somebody today that did leather work. Is that leather work guy who with the kilt on? He showed me beautiful leather work he just started doing. He said when he saw me make this, he started doing leather work. Now he's making something I would think he was a teacher to me. I would look at what he did, and he's only started doing it. So there's levels of interest and levels of passion that will take over that learning curve. So, I mean, just go into it experimenting. If you go into it experimenting, you don't feel that sense of discouragement when it doesn't work out. You go, okay, now I have a reference point. Then I can take that reference point, and next time I try and do a little better in this other direction or so. I think if you go into it with the mind of experimenting, knowing that the finished goal is down the road, not necessarily at the end of the day, then I think you'll be a little bit more easy on yourself. Any questions? Oh, yes, sir?
You are making great podcast with David Puchita and Bob Claggett.
Say again?
You are making great podcast with David Puchita.
Thank you.
And,
Bob Claggett. Bob's here somewhere, yeah.
yeah, so what's your motivation in that?
Oh, what's our motivation for the podcast? The fans. If people keep listening, we'll keep doing it. Is Bob here? Bob's not here at the moment. But I think the motivation is that people keep wanting to listen. So we'll keep talking. As long as people keep wanting to as long as people keep wanting to listen, we'll keep talking. And you know, in this community, there's always new learning. I mean, when you think about when me, Bob, and Dave got together, I think about, you know, we would discuss the opportunities we had making money behind the scenes, and it was very few and far between. And now each one of us are making a pretty decent career out of doing it. And from what we're doing, other people are developing careers out of what me, Bob, and Dave, and Joao, and many other people in this community are doing. And that's so rewarding for me, is to see you guys coming up to me and saying, I'm quitting my day job, or my day job is now secondary, my life dream is this, that, or the other thing. And that really is what motivates, I think, all of us. Thank you. My mom said she loves me. Any other questions? How many more minutes I got?
Actually, we're unfortunately done now.
We're done? Okay,
Yeah,
right.
Would you be open to just come over and have a chit chat over there?
Yeah.
So the crowd can sort of follow, because kids are a bit worried about the big crowd here.
Okay.
That's fine. It's very
I-
much more place.
I see smoke over there. Are we okay?
It's probably forging. That's
Okay. Oh, forging's happening?
Hopefully.
Oh, cool. I want to see. It stopped. It stopped. Don't get worried. All right, guys. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm going to be here all day today and all day tomorrow.